Hello everybody, welcome back to Waffles RC, and Happy New Year, which is very weird to say because today is December the 28th, but Happy New Year, because that's when this video comes out, is after the New Year. I want to thank everybody for the holiday wishes for me and my family. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys all had a great time, great holidays, whatever you celebrate. And speaking of New Year, there will be no New Year, New Me thing. The only thing I'm going to try to do differently is try to be a little less monotone, but no promises, because this is just who I am. So we are back on the RCs. And as you can see, partially, we have the Zacklift. What I'm going to do is actually assemble it and put it all together. So first thing I have to do is put the lights in. But as you can see, there are no wires on it because I cut it for the semi, which isn't over there, it's right there. So I need to solder some wires onto this, which is going to be interesting to say the least because I am not good at soldering. But I will try to walk you through on how to do it, and then it is then up to you, 100% up to you, whether you want to follow my instructions or not. That's something that I am not good at. Let's get to soldering, get them glued in here, that can sit, then we'll work on the boom. Okay, so I don't know how well you guys can see it. On the ends of these LED strips, you can cut them at these brass terminal areas. They're very small, but they're labeled positive and negative. So I've cut the protective sheathing back so I can actually get a wire onto them. And then you will take, there we go, your wire, do red for positive, black for negative, and put solder on these first, and then put them down onto this, and then put the solder gun on top of the wire and melt it onto there. So now that is all purely what I just saw on YouTube, because I've never been good at soldering. I always watch video on it before I try and solder. And yes, it is not lost on me that you guys have mentioned that I can weld, but I can't solder. Two very different things. If soldering was more like welding, I'd be good. But it's very much not, and it's a little bit hard, so practice makes perfect. And I'm going to keep practicing probably for the rest of my life because I'm not good at this. So let me do what I just said because a video told me to do that, and I'll let you know how it worked. Alright, I'm not overly proud of it. It was very difficult. Don't have a lot of room back here to hold it on like I did the semis. The sleeper was a lot easier to do. So that's drying. So the next thing we're going to do is put this all together. We got to put the hydraulic ram in, run the wires for it, mount the winches, and I'll show you what I do for these winches, which I just discovered not very long ago, to get rid of these little steel cables. So here are the winches, and here is the cable that I took out of them. You can see I have new synthetic line, so you know, we're very fancy. A lot of these winches you can take this steel line out of. This one has a set screw with the wire, this wire cable that goes through it. So I swapped it out with fishing line. This stuff right here, it's a bit thick, kind of a pain, but I got it in there. And then I spooled it up and then put a hook on the end. Okay, can't really get the camera any lower. Use my servo tester here and connect it to the positive and negative on here using this. That's the wrong way. So if you hook it up, the positive to the positive, negative to the negative with these winches, and it spools the wrong way than you want it to, just flip them, because that's how they change the direction. It's just they reverse the polarities, the positive and negative. So now the positive wire is on the negative terminal of the servo tester. Yep. Then just like a real winch, a little bit of tension on it, and don't do that. You want to spread it out evenly on the drum itself. It's okay, you only need like 3 or 4 hands to be able to do this correctly. It's a lot easier on a big truck, but you can make this work. And yes, it's hurting my fingers. So I'm gonna leave that just like that right there. So now I need to put, wherever it is, I need to put this hook on to this and then tighten it up like I did this one. Now I'm sure there are correct ways of doing it. That's not an Allen. My tools are everywhere. It's been very stressful, just so you guys know. I guess that's what happens when I take 2 weeks off of working on RCs. I forget how stressful it can be sometimes, forgetting where everything is. Where is my screwdriver? There it is. Take the hook off. All right, so there's our hook, our bolt. We don't need this cable anymore. All right, so I need that cable again. Okay, so this has a wire crimp on it for steel cable. It just crimps down and creates that loop right there and holds it from coming apart. So I have to do the same thing, but with my synthetic line. What I have discovered and have done, if you're an auto mechanic or a DIY home person for automotive or anything, you have butt connectors. But you don't want the plastic part. All you need is that metal insert that's inside of it. So you take something that'll fit inside of the metal piece and you just lightly hammer it out and hope you don't lose it when it falls on the floor. That's how most of these butt connectors are. They're just kind of pushed into the plastic, or the plastic is melted on top of it, and usually not very well. That's why a lot of people don't use cheap butt connectors. So we don't need that. We use this piece. So now I have it mostly spooled up onto the drum here, but not all the way. I'm going to cut a little bit past where the hook is going to be. Attempt to lay this down nicely. Oh, I almost forgot another important step. So in these butt connectors, you won't be able to see it on the camera, but there is a little piece, a little tab in there that keeps the wires that you're pushing in from going all the way through. You don't want that because you need this synthetic line to go all the way through. So you hold it, get yourself a drill bit away from the fancy paint. Bam. And once again, you can't see it, but it's not there anymore. And this is fishing line, so which is real fun because it's low water absorbing fishing line. And the only reason why I know that is because I just read it that it said that, and I've been licking this the entire time I tried the first line like 6 times. So you run it all the way through, then you have to tuck it back in enough to be able to crimp it down with your wire crimpers, and then you go from there. There'll be a lot of stuff that I have to edit out of this. All right, it's not pretty, but it works. There we go. Just had to widen up the 2 tangs a little bit. So remember, it doesn't have to be overly incredibly tight when you crimp it down. You want it tight enough that it won't come off. But remember, you're pulling out RCs. You're not pulling an entire like real size truck with it. So, you know, just calm down a little bit. All right, let's get all 4 of our hands back together. Get this connected up. Remember which direction you are going, and since I have 2 winches, remember which winch I'm doing. And there we are. So I have the 2 winches on. This is what the nuts were for, was for the cables to have guides to go through. Yes, they cross over a little bit. And then on the end, just have these ones hooked on to right there. Forgot to put electrical tape on that, so I'll do that right now. But that's all I did with this one, just clean up a little bit of electrical tape. Remember, this is a budget channel-ish, even though this thing's quite expensive, which when it's all done, I'll price everything out and give you guys a listing of how much everything was. There we go. Nothing fancy. Now I gotta plug this back in. So I just wanted it to look a little bit nicer. And there we are. Now the winches are done. Put that over there. Clean up most of this mess. Then I have to fish the wires through for the hydraulic ram for the wheel lift. Run that through. Then put everything inside of the Zacklift itself. So let me get this wire ran through. It's not easy or fun. I got the wheel lift put on, got the electrical ran through it for that particular hydraulic ram. The wires for the winches are just going to go down the side and inside the Zacklift body itself. But for those of you asking about wiring, for winches, you have to be able to run it off of your controller. This is a very cheap controller, but off of any transmitter. What you're going to need is a winch controller, basically. It's just so for these hydraulic rams, I had to use a winch controller as well. So it goes into your open auxiliary port, and then basically this piece right here, little printed circuit board, reverses the polarity running your winches, or in this case, the rams are just a servo, and it runs forwards, backwards, reversing the polarity. And that is how you run either winches or these hydraulic rams, is with a winch controller. Now for the lights, I want those to turn on and off with a button on the controller as well. You'll need a light controller. It's just a little adapter, goes into an open auxiliary port. This particular one has an adapter for two separate lights, which will be the tail lights and the amber running lights that I put on the side. So you will need all of this if you want it to be ran off of your transmitter. If you don't want it to be ran off of your transmitter and you just want them on, easiest way, first make sure that whether you have a BEC or an ESC, that it is set to the proper voltage. This one has 4 different voltage options. Most lights I've found either run on 6 volt or 7.4. I go for the 7.4. Most servos will run on 7.4, at least for 10 scale. So make sure that the voltage for your lights matches the voltage that you have your body controller or your speed controller set to. With this set at 7.4, your receiver will be putting out the voltage at 7.4 volts. So if you just want lights on all the time, you figure out of the 3 terminals in here which one is positive and negative, and then you plug your lights right into that. And anytime you turn the RC on, the lights will be on. Turn it off, the lights turn off. So that is a quick tip. Be very certain that the lights can handle the voltage. If not, you'll get the magic smoke. What I'm going to do now is try to wire all this stuff back in. I gotta see if those lights set, so I can mount this in, then wire everything up to the Zacklift. Or actually, sorry, gotta wire it all up to this and the receiver, and then try and figure this thing out again. And then we'll have a working Zacklift again. Alright guys, just so you know, wiring is a game of patience. And how do I know this? Yeah, it's dark out and the street light's on. And very bright light on my face. But to show you how much patience is really needed for electrical work on these RCs, at least complicated ones, this is what you have to look forward to when you do very complicated builds, or at least with a lot of wiring. It's a lot of experimenting and mess. But let me walk you through everything that has been done since last you saw. So this is the mess of wiring in here. If we can possibly see, here is the BEC, here is the battery, and yes, this is as clean as I was able to get it. Here's the receiver for our transmitter, and then on the other side are the receivers for the wireless winch controllers. Why, you're asking? Did I do these? Because that's all I had. And I don't know how to program this thing all that well. So this is what we did. So everything is in here, but the joys of doors. Oh, look, now you can't see anything. But let's get it on the truck and turn it on so you can see it in its glory. So as you can see, the truck is already on with its little battery. So I have the switch right here. That is on. We'll watch the hydraulics. But most importantly, that's right, lots of lights. We have the tail lights on the back, all the lights down the side, and yes, they are on both sides. A lot of lights on the back. Kind of want more, honestly. It's, I can live with that. Now, if we remember correctly, there's that one. Yes, the back doesn't flash as fast as the front, but that's because of the light controller that's on it. But you're gonna know that this thing is coming. Man, that is so freaking awesome. All right, enough of the flashies. There we go. That is the Zacklift with all of its lights, the truck with all of its lights. Now I just am waiting on a motor. So let me do a little cleanup and I'll walk you through the electrical stuff. So from earlier, I showed you a light switch, basically, that you plug into the receiver so that way you can turn the lights on and off with the transmitter. That is how these lights are turning on and off. I have it plugged into one of the channels for here. And so this turns them on and off. You can't see them. There you go. So it goes through its cycle. It has that flashing cycle, but then it also has this weird glowing one, or I can just turn them off. So that is for the lights. The truck is on the same one. The reason why this transmitter is in the picture at all and why I'm not doing it all through the truck transmitter, because the Zacklift has its own transmitter and its own battery. I wanted that on purpose so that way if you watch many videos ago, if you watch a couple of those videos, you'll see how this comes detached from the truck. So I want to be able to power this without having to take up room on the truck. Oh, now I gotta turn it around. So the winches, those were tricky. Wait to finish this, clean this area up. Yeah, okay, so you see there's these two little black boxes right here. Those are for the wireless, for the wireless for the winches. Now you have to program them, which took me a while to actually read the instructions to know that I had to program them. But when you're running two of them, the hard part is that if you program one with both of them turned on, it's going to program both of them. Even though only one is lighting up that it's working, then it runs both of the winches. So you have to hook up one, program it, disconnect it, hook up the other one, program the other remote. Then once you do that, then they will work separately, as I will attempt to demonstrate in a way that you can see it. Then I went super technical and I wrote bottom for bottom winch and top for the top winch. I know the technology here is something to truly envy. So turn that on. And these are just wired up the way I wired them. The wireless controllers, they still have to get power, so they're just powered straight from the BEC using the correct voltage. So with that, I hit the remote for out, and that one goes out. And you grab the other remote, and nothing works. Please hold. Okay, don't know what it was. I turned it on and off, and it started working. So there's the bottom winch, and there's the top winch, both working separately. And the buttons are backwards, but that is quite an easy fix. Honestly, it really is. And I need to put magnets on these doors or something, because this is just getting ridiculous now. Actually, turn you on, move you. Don't know why I didn't think of that. Now it's not in the way. So if I wanted to, since these are both backwards essentially, which I don't know how that happened, I can just unplug it, turn it, and plug it back in, and it won't hurt anything. And I know that's going to be hard for people to grasp because you're plugging a positive into a negative, but that is how these things work. It's just reversing the polarity to go the different directions. And then with the lights, it's just a light switch, and if it doesn't work correctly, sometimes you'll have to reprogram or go through the settings on your transmitter to make sure that it is functioning correctly. Some transmitters will have an auxiliary thing as a momentary switch, so you just push it and they come on, then you let off and they turn off. Well, most transmitters, you can go in there and take it from momentary to an actual on-off switch. So just read your instruction manuals and you'll be able to figure out how to program them. This thing's instruction manuals were horrible, and now that this stuff works, that's it. That's how it's staying, because I'm not trying to read these again. I'm pretty sure I threw them away, honestly. With electrical, just be patient. And once again, make sure that you check the voltages of your BEC or ESC, however you're programming them. This one just has a little plug where you change it. The 2-in-1 ESCs, or some ESCs just in general, you have to have the programming card, but you can change the voltage in that as well, which will send different voltages to, once you change them, it'll send the different voltage to all your servos, lights, everything. So if you have a 3S battery, like this thing will have 3S battery is, I think those are like 12.4 volts. Yeah, so these ones that I use are 11.1 volts. You hook up these LED lights for these things straight to a power source off of this, I can tell you for a fact, because I did it when I first started, you'll see the magic smoke. And you don't want the magic smoke out of an LED. So that's why they have the ESCs and the BECs, to be able to control that voltage coming from the battery. So make sure you check them. Also, make sure that you check with the BEC that you get, or ESC, that they can run 2S, 3S, whatever, because if it's rated for 2S and you plug 3S into it, that's over voltage for that motor. You can burn the motor up. So there are a lot of things to pay attention to when wiring these things up, but for the most part, they're pretty basic. But this thing is coming along. I'm glad that the Zacklift is done. Next, I need to make stickers because it's just a little too bland. Need to make stickers for the truck and I'm still waiting on a motor. It is ordered, so I'm just waiting for it to show up. Once that gets in, oh, we're gonna go tow some stuff. My little sliders in here helped. I don't know if you... Yeah, so you see how it's sliding off? This is a bit loose, and it used to catch on here, but now that I put those little slider tabs on it, it just slides right in there with no issues. That makes me very happy. I didn't even check that. That is it for the Zacklift minus stickers. The outriggers, still working on those. I wasn't happy with them. Didn't like how they just moved around a lot. Other than those, this thing is exactly how I was hoping it would turn out. I'm happy it got winches on it. I don't know how useful they'll be, but they sure do look good, and they function. They don't function great because they're not the strongest, but they look the closest to real winches, you know, scale points. That's what we go for here. That is it for this week. Thank you all for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope that helps a few of you. We do have some other things coming for electrical, at least, when it comes to upgrading an RTR or adding stuff to an RTR. And if you watched the recap video of last year, you'll see which vehicle is going to be getting said upgrades. Because I may talk a lot about building your own, but a lot of people want to buy and then upgrade. So I figured, let's buy one and upgrade it. And I'll show you how I do the upgrades. We'll go through the whole upgrade process. And this is just, that'll be with what I want to upgrade, not what everybody has to do. So from Waffles RC, thank you all very much. Hopefully next time you see this thing, it will be driving. I know I said that last time, but this time, motors are expensive, okay? Give me a break. This thing will be driving and towing now that the Zacklift is done and wired. The truck is mostly done and wired. I just need that motor, and we can make it make noise, smoke, and go and tow some stuff. So, thank you all for watching. We will see you next week. Alright, if you stayed this far, you know what time it is. We have it all together. I've weighed this, I've weighed this, I've done the math to get the total weight, but let's put some batteries in it. Now that all the accessories are in it, let's get everything on it and put it on a scale. I'm interested to see that. I'm interested to see how to get it on a scale. Because last time I couldn't get it on the scale. I put the motor in there just to see if that adds any weight to it. Where's our scale? There she is. Which one do I feel like bending the most? Which one do I feel like would actually hold it? It is zeroed out, as you can see. Alright, you ton of fun. How are we going to do this? I did it like that last time. I don't know how to do this. Jesus. I don't know how to weigh it. Ooh. Those might do something. Give me a second, this is gonna get weird. Okay, this is what I've come up with. It's not that great, but it is off the ground. So, hopefully it's accurate. I zeroed it out with all the metal. 45 pounds, 10.7 ounces. So, 6 ounces off of 46 pounds, which still have that other motor to put in it. Yeah, I think 46 to 47 will be its final total weight with everything in it and accessories and stuff. That is a heavy truck, I'll tell you that much. Thanks for watching.